Hello, everybody, and welcome to New Age Renaissance Man. My name is Alex DQ. Now, this is the first official episode of this podcast, and I am incredibly excited. And because I'm so excited, I decided to start off this podcast with a bang with one of my favorite topics to discuss, and that's going to be TikTok. I think TikTok, I have a lot of opinions on TikTok. And, people who know me are kind of sick of hearing me talk about TikTok over and over again. But I'm going to share with you guys some of my thoughts. And I'm really interested to see what you guys think about it. But we're going to talk about three different things regarding TikTok. The first thing we're going to talk about is how TikTok works. The second thing is going to be how it is affecting students and young people. And the final thing is going to be what schools are doing to counteract this. So we're going to talk about those three things. And hopefully you'll come to understand TikTok better. And if anybody has any thoughts, I'd be very excited to hear them and have you share them with me. And so hopefully I'll learn something in the long run too. So let's just jump right into it and discuss how TikTok works. And when it comes to how TikTok works, I actually decided to download TikTok on my phone and try it out. And boy, was it an experience. So I'm going to tell you that story because some crazy things happened that I really didn't expect, but they really caught me off guard. So let's start with that, how TikTok works. And let's start with that story. So in preparing to make this podcast, I went and I downloaded TikTok. Now, after waiting for a few seconds for it to download, I clicked on the app and it opened. And the first thing that popped up was this massive screen, this massive display of all these different topics. And they were, divided into categories like art, literature, comedy, celebrities, travel, all sorts of things, just tons of different things. There were even jobs like, accountant or scientist, like or engineer, something like that. So there were all sorts of different things that were there. And I was like, wow, that's okay. So it asked me to put my interests. And so I was like, okay, we're 15 minutes, actually 15 seconds. We're 15 seconds into this experience. And you guys are already asking me to give you information about the things I like. Okay. I thought I'm fine. Other social media does this. This is fine. Don't overreact. Just do it. So that's exactly what I did. So I put drawing, I put food decor, stocks, travel, auto repair, and car maintenance. And because those were the kind of things that I was like, I'm kind of interested in this. Let's put that. Now some of the things that I really enjoy, like, classical music or jazz music, those weren't there. There wasn't really much for literature. Like there was like a few things. There wasn't really much that I was like, oh, I'm going to click. There wasn't like classics of literature, like, book reviews, which makes sense because you can't really do that in 60 seconds or whatever the TikTok time limit is. But I clicked on the things I clicked on. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm shortly into this experience. They already know my interests. Cool. I press next, and then a little screen pops up, and it has a statement from the app. And the app tells me, quote, videos are personalized for you based on what you watch, like, and share, unquote. Okay, so TikTok has my interests, and now they're just telling me outright that we are going to use your information, the things you watch, the things you like, and the things you share, and we're going to use that to try to target you with content we know will keep you on our app. Which again, this is standard stuff for social media these days. Now, it is very problematic in and of itself. It is problematic that these websites, all these social media brands and things are trying to take our information to keep us chained to their apps, right? That's concerning enough. But this is nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing out of the ordinary that would make me think, okay, TikTok is worse than, Instagram or, YouTube or whatever else. So I decided to keep going. Then it asked me for my age, which, okay, makes sense. Then it asked me if I can, if I will let it send me notifications. It asked me if, can we put notifications so that you'll know when cool things are on TikTok? And I put no. And this is where the story gets kind of scary, actually. This is where I started to go, oh my goodness, this is worse than I thought. Because TikTok then asked my permission to track my activity across all my other apps and every website I visit. Think about that. Let me tell you that again. They wanted to track my activity across the entire rest of my phone. I'd already given them my interests. They already knew my age. Based on my interests, they maybe probably already knew my gender. They now wanted to know what I was doing on my phone. And that to me is pretty shocking. See, I have YouTube and I, have Instagram and things. So I'm familiar with some of the other social media. I'm not super involved in them, but I understand, kind of functionally how they work. And that is the first time I was ever asked that question. Can we use your data on the rest of your phone? And that is incredibly shocking. And the scary thing is there's going to be a lot of people who just go accept, whatever, to start watching the videos. They don't pay attention to what they're reading, and they're on TikTok, and now TikTok has access to everything that they do on their phone and can learn from that, and no one's batting an eye. I mean, that's scary. So I clicked no on that because I was not going to click yes. I was not going to let TikTok have access to my phone because that, to me, is insane. So then after that, it asked me it asked me for access to my contacts so that I could see who all my friends and family were. And, I understand that other apps do it, but coming right after the previous question that I was asked, like, could I have access to your entire phone, please? Coming after that question, I was thinking, goodness sakes, now you want to know who everybody I know is. Like, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. So I clicked no. And then I started to watch some of the videos. And the videos were so weird. Like, the videos were so weird. Because every single one of them was this, like, epileptic attack. It was, like, really loud music, very, very, like, very simplistic, loud electronic music with, like, bright visuals or flashing. It was kind of insane. It was something it felt like Orwellian. Like, like in 1984, right, the main character, I can't remember his name for the life of me, but the main character is captured and, like, tortured, and if I recall correctly, he's, like, shown videos and things, and like that helps in the manipulation. And to me, I was like, how this feels like that? Like, it's just like an attack on my senses. It's almost like maybe I'm misconstruing things. You know what I'm thinking it might be? In 1984, do you remember the 2-minute hate? If you've read the book, or I guess if you watched the movie, because I think there's movies about it, there's the 2-minute hate, where it's like 2 minutes, where it's just like this. Everybody in the workplace gets together and they watch this video that the government created, and it's like it's like propaganda, and it's like 2 minutes of, like, propaganda or something, and then you're, like, yelling at the screen, and it's like, really bright, intense visuals. That's almost what it felt like. It obviously wasn't like, oh, trying to get me to hate whatever, but it was that kind of just sensory overload. It was a lot. And so I was like, okay, I'm not doing this very much. So I scrolled down the videos. One thing I'll note is that the moment you're on the app, the first thing it does is show you the videos. You click on the app, it instantly gives you videos. And I was like, goodness sakes. Like, I'm not even able to get there for it. It just sends me to them. But okay. So then I decided to click around the app a little bit more. And I clicked to a different part of the app where it wasn't showing me videos. But it asked me to go into my settings, go to TikTok, and override my refusal to give them access to my contacts. It was asking for a second time for access to my contacts. which I already didn't give you permission. I said no. So, why are you asking me again? It was pretty persistent. I'll give it that. I've never had an app like that where it just asked me over and over again for access to my phone, even after I've explicitly, I clicked no. I said, you do not have permission to this access. And it said, maybe second time's the charm. That's kind of crazy. So you click onto this app, it instantly learns so much information about you within the first, 5 minutes of that app being opened on your phone, if you agree to everything it asks you to agree to. And then it shows you loud, flashy music. Now, TikTok, for those of you that don't know, is the streaming service. I guess you could call it a streaming service, like a social media streaming service thing. It's kind of a blend of a few things. But it has more views or more like users. Like it is used more than every other streaming service out there combined. Spotify, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime Video, all those things, all combined, do not have as many views or users or whatever as TikTok. And that's a scary thought to me. But, that's kind of a little confusing because there's other social media apps, there's other streaming services. So why is TikTok so popular? And I'm starting to see why, is because they have way more information than some of these other folks do, some like Facebook and Instagram. TikTok has way more information to work with because they ask for it and they probably get it. Like for a lot of people, they get that information. And so now it's this app that has your information, knows who you are, can put you in these little statistical groups of, okay, this person's young, this person has these interests, this person's male or female, this person's this, that, or the other. Okay, we can group them into categories and we can find out what they like. And then they're going to fling those kinds of topics at me to get me to stay on the app. And these are, 1 minute videos, like at the most. The average TikTok is between like 20 and 30 seconds. I think I read that somewhere, where it's between 20 and 30 seconds. And because of that, by no means are any of these videos going to be thoughtful. At least on YouTube, you might have a 2-hour in-depth thoughtful video, or even a half an hour in-depth thoughtful video. Heck, even a 20-minute in-depth thoughtful video, because those are possible. It depends on the subject matter, but you can have a very, very interesting thoughtful video in 20 minutes. But these 60-second clips are nothing. They're nothing. These are contentless. There is nothing interesting, deep, about them. This is not art. I don't know where these people get the idea that they're creators, because they're not creating anything. I mean, it is shallow. It is shallow content. But here's the thing. Here's the brilliant part of TikTok, is that they got all that information. They're sending you these videos, but the videos they're sending you, this isn't like YouTube, because YouTube can get information on you, and they'll send you videos, but they're longer videos. But these short TikTok videos are designed to hack the human brain. Because imagine this. Let's take, a story. A story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Why do I watch Star Wars, for example? Why do I like watching Star Wars? I love Star Wars. Why do I watch Star Wars? Well, because in the beginning, you have, Luke, and he's the farm boy. And in the middle, they rescue Princess Leia. And at the end, they blow up the Death Star. And there's the nice beginning, middle, and end, which gets me to the end of the movie. And when the Death Star blows up and everybody goes and hugs and stuff, it feels good. There's that enjoyment. I've seen the story told here. I enjoyed the story told here. I got something out of it. So there's that beginning, middle, and end, which at the beginning, there's the setup. In the middle, there's the tension. And at the end, there's the resolution. And it feels peaceful. It feels resolved. It's the exact same in music. If, I'm a pianist. And when you're doing some sort of, if you're playing, you might have 4 bars, 4 measures. And in the first measure, you'll have a musical idea set up. And then in the middle too, you'll have the tension, you'll have it, the little phrase climax, and then it falls and resolves at the end. You know, that's the whole concept. Jazz is built on 2-5-1s. That's a chord progression, 2-5-1. And when you have the 2 and then the 5, those do exactly what I told you. They set it up, they create the tension, and then the 1, that's the 1 chord, that's the tonic, it resolves the musical phrase. That's like the function of jazz. That is like the core of jazz, the 2-5-1. So that is how, you know, humans enjoy content. That's how we appreciate things. You know, that kind of beginning, middle, and end. What TikTok has realized is that if we make those beginning and middle and end all within 20 seconds, you get the complete satisfaction in, you know, a little bite-sized story, a little bite-sized 2-5-1. And because of that, because you have so quickly received the payoff, you get that little hit of dopamine. Your brain releases, you know, pleasure chemicals. And then you say, let's do this again. And you're watching, you watch short video, and you're constantly beginning, middle, and end, beginning, middle, and end, beginning, middle, and end, over and over and over again. And you get those dopamine hits and you feel amazing. You know, it feels great. And they've figured that out. They figured out how the brain works. They figured out that all they have to do to get people to watch is shove these short, bite-sized, shallow videos at people. But because they hack the brain, it works. It hacks the way your brain is supposed to work. And basically, they're taking advantage of biology for their own personal gain. I mean, if you think about it like that, it's pretty horrendous. But that's exactly what they're doing. They're taking advantage of the way our minds work in order for their gain. So TikTok, fundamentally, the way it functions is they take your information, they try to even take information from places that aren't TikTok, like the rest of your phone and your contacts and the people you know. They then micro-target that at you to keep you on their website or on their app. And then they give you these little 20-second bite-sized nuggets of information. And then because of the enjoyment of the beginning, middle, and resolution, because that is how humans enjoy content, and because they're giving us that in bite-sized chunks every 20 seconds, they have found out that that is the formula to success. That is how to keep people on their app, constantly using it, chained to it. Have you ever been on like YouTube and you watch one video and you go, it's just 5 minutes. And you watch the 5-minute video. You see another one, it's just 10 minutes. So you watch the 10-minute video. Another one, maybe 7 minutes. You watch that one because it's just 7 minutes. And then an hour later, you're like, wading through a 13 video deep YouTube session. And you've watched like a bunch of videos. Like, how did this happen? It's kind of shocking. TikTok has realized, hey, but people are only going to say, this is 20 seconds. What's one more? What's 3 more? They're all only, a few seconds long. They've figured that. They've hacked it. They've made it even worse. And that is how TikTok functions. Pretty shocking. But how does it affect students and young people? Well, I already told you that it hacks the brain, right? But the thing about students and young people is they're in a different position than the rest of society. When you have a young person, their brain is still developing. Their mind is still developing. They're still, figuring things out, and they are not the most, they're not the most cognitively sharp of their lives. They'll become smarter, they'll become more cognitively sharp, put together, but they're still developing as a student. And the unfortunate reality of being a student is that it is very, very stressful. And even more tragically is that since the COVID-19 pandemic, you had all these students who were locked in their homes. All of them who were locked in their homes for 1.5 years, maybe even 2 years, depending on where they live. They were all stuck at home. They didn't see their friends. They had to do a school year from, the kitchen table. And as a result, a lot of them became mentally unhealthy. They became extra anxious. They became extra stressed. You talk to, clinical psychologists, even talk to teachers, and they're going to tell you the COVID-19 pandemic did something to a lot of kids. For some kids, it hasn't been reversed yet. Some people are still dealing with mental health issues even since COVID-19, even since that ended. And it's been a little while now, but they're still dealing with it because the effects are incredible. So you have these children who are stressed, anxious, they're exhausted because they have long school days. They go home, they have more homework, even more stress, even more exhaustion, and they're mentally unhealthy. And then TikTok comes in and says, I'm a social media, so you can connect with your friends, you can have funny videos, you can have enjoyable short videos, and I'll make you feel good for a few minutes. I'll make you feel happy for a few minutes. And I mean, if you're a kid and you're mentally exhausted and stressed, why wouldn't you say yes to that? So then the kids get onto their devices, they get onto their phones, and they become glued to those phones. They become glued to the escapism, to the few minutes of dopamine hits, and it becomes an addiction. Think about it like this. There's the opioid crisis with people getting addicted to opioids, right? That's something that's going on. And people don't get addicted to opioids because their life is going amazing. People get addicted because they get injured, they get really hurt. Maybe, I don't know what it is. Maybe you get into a car accident and you're really hurt and you go to the hospital, you're in a lot of pain, and they say, okay, here's morphine, for example. And you take morphine or whatever, or OxyContin, or, who knows. And then you feel better. These kinds of addictions, they hit because people who are lacking something health-wise, mental health or physical health, because a substance takes advantage of that. And that is what TikTok is doing. It is taking advantage of a mentally unhealthy, exhausted group of young people. And it is tragic. It is the tragedy possibly of the generation. So now we have all these kids who are now addicted to their phones. And there's not really much we can do about it, societally. Like, what are we supposed to do? Because politicians they should have banned TikTok by now, to be quite honest, but they haven't. And so, I'm going to be honest, I'd be seriously skeptical about anyone who's going to go out and say they're definitely going to ban TikTok. Of course, I'd be really skeptical of anyone who says that, because why would they? I mean, it's a big business, makes a lot of money. I don't see any reason why they're gonna. If they haven't done anything by now, I don't see any reason that they will. But you know what's even more nefarious about TikTok than like other drugs? With other drugs, it is people pushing a substance that already exists. Like for example, when you have a person who's addicted to opioids to a certain extent, they do something. I mean, that can be, at least in theory, beneficial to health. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in a lot of pain, yeah, sure, maybe you need morphine, like once. Maybe you need morphine at the beginning, just like a couple times to deal with that, right? But after that, maybe they should cut you off of morphine, right? They shouldn't keep giving it to you. But at the very beginning, at least there's that benefit. But with TikTok, it is not only a substance that isn't like found, it was created by humans. It is purely a human thing. It is not found in nature. So not only is it created by humans, but then it is pushed by humans, and they know exactly what they're doing, because their whole business model is based around the data of how many people can I get addicted to this app. That is their business model. See, the business model of uh, any pharmaceutical company is going to be making money, but the business model of TikTok is getting as many views as possible. And that's the thing, is that their business model is addiction. And I don't know about you, but I want a society of smart people. I want a society of people that can have discussions and talk about things. See, this is why I'm talking about this. The reason I'm talking about this is because the whole reason I made this podcast is because I care about education. I care about discussion. I love having interesting discussions. I want to share interesting discussions with the world. I want to share interesting thoughts with the world. And that's why I created this. But we're losing that. And we're losing that because this next generation of kids is fundamentally handicapped by an addiction that was created when a massive company took advantage of a mental health crisis to basically chain children to their phones. It is a massive tragedy. So when you consider the fact that these kids with their developing minds are being completely hindered and are being addicted to their phones, you have to ask the question, what are schools doing to counteract this? Because at a certain level, if TikTok is taking away a child's capacity to learn, because that's exactly what it's doing, because when you're addicted to that phone, you're not going and sitting down and reading. You're not going and learning about other things. You're not practicing an instrument. You're not doing anything. You're going to school, scraping by, going home, getting yourself more addicted. All right. So if we can all agree that it doesn't help with education, then obviously it is the school's responsibility to do something. What are schools doing? And the answer is nothing. Now, I remember a long time ago, schools used to say, no more don't stay away from social media. It's dangerous. Just stay away from it. What are schools doing now? I'll tell you what they're doing now. These days, schools have social medias. They embraced it. They have Instagram pages, and they have, for each of their clubs, they also have Instagram pages. So one school might be directly responsible for like 10 different pages on Instagram. There are tons of high schools on Instagram. If you go on Instagram and search up like high school, you're going to find a lot of things. And you may think that like, oh, Instagram isn't TikTok. It's not the same problem. But it is. Because if you go on Instagram, Instagram has realized TikTok's game and they've tried to match it. So they've created Instagram Reels. And when you go on YouTube, you may think, oh, it's different, but it's not, because they've created YouTube Shorts. See, every social media company has seen what TikTok has done, and they're trying to capitalize on it and take advantage of it and use a similar model. So they've created their own TikToks within the app. So when schools are endorsing indirectly Instagram by putting things on Instagram and having an Instagram page, what they are inherently doing is drawing kids towards the same kind of stuff that TikTok does, on Instagram. What Instagram does is very similar to what TikTok does because of the Instagram Reels. And on top of that, if you go on to Instagram Reels, like I did when I was preparing for this podcast, you'll find a lot of people who basically took their TikToks and then just posted them onto Instagram. And it's not only in the Reels, but it's almost inescapable because, friends will share them on their stories. So you'll have on the Instagram, you go on the app, you see what your friends have posted, they're just posting TikToks. It's inescapable. It's growing. And it shows how addicting of a platform TikTok is, that it has infected every other social media. And so schools are doing nothing about this. You don't hear a word about it. You don't hear schools telling kids to stay off of TikTok. You don't tell schools, you don't hear schools telling students that they need to be careful about how much time they're spending on social media. In fact, I can't remember the last time I went and saw a school telling their kids to read a book that wasn't in elementary school. It seems that like once kids hit middle school, the schools just give up on kids being able to read. If you're 6th grade and above, the school doesn't care if you read it or not anymore. I mean, how tragic is that? For people like myself who love education and discussion and learning, what kind of world am I entering? And 50 years from now, what kind of world will I be living in? Because right now, the people that read and the people that studied, the people that learned, they rule the world right now, okay? But in 50 years, it's not going to be them. It's going to be this next generation, this current generation, Gen Z. Gen Z is going to rule the world. And what kind of world is that going to be? And that's a scary thing. Schools are perpetuating all of this. And not only are they doing it by having social media, but they're doing it by not allowing the consequences of these kids' actions to come to fruition. And what I mean by that is I already, we talked about how this can affect academics. That, the kid goes home and instead of saying, I'm going to learn something new. And so they read a book and they read maybe a great piece of literature. They read something nonfiction. They learn something new about the world. They think about the world a different way, something philosophical, political, historical, literary. Instead of any of that, they go home and get on their phones. And so students are less knowledgeable. But at the same time, if you looked at grades, if you look at grade point averages, you would think that these are the smartest students that have ever been. Because you'll have students these days who have 4.87 GPAs, 4.9 GPAs, 4.56 GPAs, way above a 4.0. A 4.0 used to be the best. Now it just doesn't cut it. If you're at a 4.0, you're behind. How is that possible? It's because of something called grade inflation. The simple fact is we've introduced so many higher level AP courses with weighted grades, this or that or the other, that it is possible for a kid to spend his days on TikTok, go to school, get B's and A's and things, and still have above a 4.0 if he takes the right classes. That's crazy. No longer are people expected to know things, like really invest their time and really know things to be the top, because we practice so much grade inflation. Schools allow kids to get away with anything. And so they'll permit, the most lackluster work to be qualifying as an A or an A+. And because of the fact that those classes are weighted, an A+ is really basically just an A++. And so as a result, you have all these kids who look amazing on paper, but in reality are some of the most unimpressive, people to come out of schools in a generation. And the schools, therefore, are allowing kids to waste away their minds while rewarding them for it with better and better grades. This is the tragedy here. It's not, faceless, nameless people being affected. It is the next generation. It is children. This is an attack on children. And it's being allowed to happen. And this attack on children is not stopping. It's getting worse. That's the reality of TikTok. That's what it's doing to kids. And the effects will be felt in our society 50 years from now. The real question is, what do we do about it? Well, as individuals, the first thing we can do is avoid TikTok. Just avoid it. Just avoid it like the plague, because that's exactly what it is. It is the plague. Avoid it like the plague. The second thing you can do is you can stay away from things like Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, because they're just TikTok wearing different hats. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. Just don't even with those. Stay away from them. Now, the final thing that I'll say is a really good strategy is if you're already in the world of TikTok, or just in general, if you just find yourself really addicted to screens. This is a practice that I tried a little while ago when I felt myself getting a little bit too involved with screens. And it's called a dopamine fast. So what this was I would get off the screens and stay off the screens for 24 hours. I didn't touch a screen. I didn't look at a screen. But on top of that, I didn't do much of anything else either. I didn't go outside. I just went for a walk. I could sit and think I didn't read, but that's all it really was. I didn't really talk to people either. I just stayed by myself the whole day and just sat alone and thought. I took a few naps to pass the time, to be honest. But apart from that, I just rested my brain. And I thought. The next day, after my dopamine fast, I was more rested than I'd ever been. Because, that's a secret behind TikTok. That's something else that they won't tell you. It feels like resting. It feels like a break from work. But because your brain is still incredibly active, it's not a real rest. You're still exhausted afterwards. I mean, it'd be equivalent to calling heroin a rest. Is heroin a rest? No, it's heroin. Okay? It's not good for you. And neither is TikTok. It won't help you become more healthy. It won't rest you. It is dangerous. But the dopamine fast was great. I felt very rested. And rest is really important to your mental health. Being mentally healthy is a very important thing to being able to avoid, that kind of addiction and just being rested. So you should rest. Getting plenty of sleep is really important. That's a really, really imperative thing to be able to avoid falling into that, screen addiction. Einstein would sleep for 10 hours a night and would take naps throughout the day. There's something to be said for rest. All the best athletes get plenty of rest. Athletes who don't rest get injured really quickly. Athletes who rest, professional basketball players who rest, they perform so much better. So if you're well rested, if you stay away from Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, like the shorts and the reels and things like that, if you stay away from those, and if you take the opportunity to have a dopamine fast and take a break from stimulation, you're going to find the ability to save yourself. And if you talk about this to others, people, save those people too. Save them to your loved ones from the incredibly dangerous realities of TikTok. The name of this podcast is New Age Renaissance Man. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to share a discussion with you. And I hope to see you next week. Bye.